welcome to CEO.CA. My name is James Petham, and today I'm joined by Dr. David Kideckel, Chairman and Director of PharmaDrug Inc. PharmaDrug trade on the CSE under the ticker PHRX and on the OTC QB under the ticker LMLLF. David, it's great to see you.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me.
So PharmaDrug had some big news out today that we're going to dive into in just a moment. But if we could kick things off with the elevator pitch, for our audience who aren't familiar with the story, could you give us a bit of the history and the backstory behind PharmaDrug?
Sure. So historically, PharmaDrug has been involved in the pharmaceutical applications of certain medicines. The press release you saw today, while it's not a medicine, certainly speaks to its pharmaceutical DNA, using biosynthesis in the creation and production at scale of cocaine. Historically, however, PharmaDrug, there's another product we have called ceforenthine. We're in the process of developing that through our subsidiary, Cerio Therapeutics. Ceforenthine is a product that has been around in Japan, first world market, for over 70 years to treat a variety of oncologies. What PharmaDrug now is aiming to do is to take ceforenthine and create a new formulation and to target additional oncologies and infectious diseases. But I think the future for PharmaDrug really lies in some of what you see in the press release that we, as you mentioned, we just released today.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about it. I mean, certainly a headline grabber, filing of the provisional patent for manufacturing of biosynthetically produced pharmaceutical grade cocaine. Give us a bit more context behind this update. What's some of the work that's gone into it? What does it mean for PharmaDrug? And what's the opportunity here with this new biosynthesis process?
Sure. So having been an expert in biosynthesis and the pharmaceutical applications of biosynthetic chemistry overall for quite some time now, we're incredibly excited at the work that's been developed with PharmaDrug and our affiliates. Now, biosynthesis is really a technique to allow various companies to really manufacture at scale GMP level, so pharmaceutical grade level type of product in a way that's consistent, pure, and at relatively low cost. So when we talk about the biosynthetic applications of cocaine, we see in cocaine one of the most devastating problems out in all of society to this day is the use of cocaine and its detrimental impacts on society. A big part of what contributes to the very negative effects of cocaine is the supply chain. Namely, it can contain a number of contaminants, fentanyl being the most common, although there are many others. So what biosynthesis allows PharmaDrug to accomplish is really the ability to produce biosynthetic versions of cocaine without any contaminants, which will allow governments, for example, to reduce cost. We see a good example is that $4.2 billion in Canada is spent every year, annually, to reduce harm reduction, specifically for cocaine. It remains the #1 contributor of harm reduction in Canada. We see even, for example, opioids, which are another barrier for certain individuals, in the pain medication area. Opioids do have a safe supply chain or a safe supply program. With cocaine, there really is no safe supply. So what biosynthesis and PharmaDrug is really trying to achieve is the safe supply of cocaine to those who need it. I do want to mention, James, in no way, shape, or form does PharmaDrug condone the use of drug addiction or drug use more generally. That said, it is a multifaceted problem, and we believe that those that do require this product for their addictions could have an alternative use, which would be more cost-effective for governments, but also, and probably more importantly, safer for the patients or the individuals themselves that use the product, namely because you're not including any of the contaminants that are known to cause severe mortality and morbidity in this type of population.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are definitely seeing a shift towards harm reduction when it comes to the multifaceted nature of drug addiction. And it's interesting to see that, this development is perhaps part of, of that larger trend in treatment. I guess, what is the market size here? What is the opportunity for, getting this pharmaceutical grade and biosynthesized drug into, the hands of maybe people who need it? And what does that kind of whole chain look like?
Sure. So, because this is such a new area, it's quite challenging to pinpoint an exact market size on this. With that said, what I can say is that we have seen the proliferation of safe supply programs, not only in Canada, but throughout the world. What that means is that from a pure business perspective, or from the economic impact of things to PharmaDrug, we could see a number of opportunities arise, namely through either out-licensing or the transferring of intellectual property to various organizations that would enable them to produce this type of drug, the cocaine, through biosynthetic mechanisms, which again would alleviate most, if not all, of the challenges we see in the manufacturing of drug coming through the purity, consistency, and the cost. I do want to just draw your attention for a second, James, if I may. Through biosynthesis and historically within the modern history of medicine, we've seen other companies deploy biosynthesis too. So by no means is biosynthesis a novel technique. In fact, it's quite dated. So what PharmaDrug is doing now is applying it to the application of where we feel there's a big unmet need. But just going back, if we look at the world supply today of insulin, insulin historically was extracted from both cows and pigs, a very costly procedure and time-consuming one. And ultimately, the purity may not have been as good as for insulin as it is today. But namely now we see the vast majority of the world's supply of insulin, for the reasons I've already mentioned, convert from the manual extraction of animals to biosynthesis. We do believe that PharmaDrug could be well positioned to capture a good portion of the market compared to those looking into the biosynthetic manufacture at commercial scale of pharmaceutical grade cocaine for those that do rely on it. And again, I do want to make note that in no way, shape, or form does PharmaDrug condone the abuse of drugs. But again, we do believe that rehabilitation should be the primary focus of those with a drug abuse problem. But that said, where PharmaDrug does believe that it can play a significant part of this is through the individuals themselves, through the elimination of any sort of contaminant, namely fentanyl and others, but also helping governments to more responsibly manage the supply program through safe supply of a product like cocaine.
Thank you so much for that response, David. And I think a lot of interesting parallels there with some of those historical medicines that have become so prevalent through biosynthesis. Changing focus just a little, but I know that PharmaDrug does have kind of other lines of business, including this 51% stake of Soraio. Can you walk us through what some of the other opportunities are beyond just today's news?
Sure. So the other very exciting area of business, which investors should consider, is all upside for PharmaDrug, but is more your traditional pharmaceutical and biotechnology play. So through Soraio, PharmaDrug is developing what's called ceforenthine. Ceforenthine is a drug pharmaceutical that's been around for over 70 years in a first world market like Japan. Now, one of the main issues of ceforenthine historically has been the bioavailability. So what PharmaDrug is in the process of doing is we are creating a better bioavailable enterically coated product, namely ceforenthine, to treat potentially multiple different types of oncologies, as well as infectious diseases. It's called PD001 is the name. And we are in the process now of pursuing through both within Australia, so the ATA, the Australian Therapeutic Goods Administration, but also with the US FDA of going towards application. So we're also very excited beyond the news that was just published today of what cephalosporin could bring, and specifically those with additional unmet medical needs in various oncologies as well as infectious diseases.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting, different line of business, and perhaps a kind of complementary approach to more of this research and development work that's going into the biosynthesis. I guess just to wrap up, I would imagine that there can't be many competitors when you're looking at this this type of business. But for investors, what really makes the story stand out? Why should investors be paying attention now? And if investors had to keep one thing in mind when looking at the upside with PharmaDrug, in your eyes, what would that one thing be?
It's a good question. I think for any different wave of potential stocks and when one stock or one industry is going to hit, you just don't necessarily know. We saw the first wave back several years ago with the cannabis type stocks. We saw a second wave with psychedelics. Now we have the opportunity to get into a potential third wave through this biosynthesis of a product like cocaine. So again, using tried and true methods within the pharmaceutical industry to help alleviate a societal and government problem. So we do expect multiple catalysts to come along with PharmaDrug. So please do keep your eyes open for them. As to what they're going to be, obviously, I'm not in a position to explain those right now or today, but we do have a number of exciting developments that we expect to occur. And if I can just leave investors with one final thought, when you're considering such a new space and with a stock like PharmaDrug that we feel is significantly undervalued, this could, without promising anything, this could very well be the next wave, and we're excited to further embark on where the journey brings us to, specifically with biosynthesis.
Well, very interesting update today, and sounds like there's going to be a lot more catalysts in the future. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, James.